Hi there. In this series of videos, I'm going to show you how I've been redoing the woodwork on a Morris Miners Traveler, including disassembly, stripping off the old finish, replacing bits and sections of the wood, and then putting it all together again using this beautiful Morris Miners Traveler book behind me, which I've been documenting the progress of in a series of videos on the Motorfile website. But this one, the wood is a really tricky bit. It's going to take a lot of time, but it's super, super important. I mean, it is the structure of the car in the back, and you've got to get it right. And also, you want it to look nice. So I hope you enjoy these. I hope they help you. Once the roof is off, easy to get off, we can see the condition of the wood underneath. It's missing one of the center cross pieces, which will have to be replaced. The other one is not in great shape. I'm going to replace that as well. But the side wood on both sides looks pretty good, and looks like we'll be able to refinish that. We're going to have to pay some attention to some of the joints, which are a bit loose, but hopefully we'll be able to make use of almost all of this wood. Now, I noticed when looking at the rear rail here that obviously it has some kind of a shunt and has a crack in it that's been repaired. I'm thinking that I'm probably going to replace this rather than have something like that in there. 50 pounds for a new one, though, not cheap, but I just kind of want to do it right. The other thing I noted is once I got the roof off, when the woodwork was done and they replaced the sides, they didn't fasten down the rail here, which is in the front, and that attaches this all to the cab of the Traveler. And so since I'm going to replace that back end, and since this piece is loose and should be done right, and obviously you can't get to this screw if the roof is on the car, and you can take the sides off, leave the roof attached, and it's so light it will just hang there. You got to be careful that you don't distort it, but it will hang there. And that may have been what they did, but at some point someone didn't fasten this back in. This is a little thing that came out of the factory here, this metal thing. And so the wood's okay here, but obviously I'm going to do this a little bit differently when I put it back together. So what I'm thinking of doing right now is taking these rails off. Already the center rails are gone and not working, and just take the thing down to two sides, and then take the panels out, and then again it'll make it easier to work on it, and it will allow me to take off the panels, and then when I reinstall the aluminum panels, it'll be easier if the sides are separated. So that's what we're going to do here, I think. Now this the rear railing here that holds this all together up above the door, it's dovetailed in there like that, and then it has brackets on each side, and that's what was normally used. And so I'm going to take those brackets out, and this is pretty loose, so I think I'm just going to be able to pull it out. I didn't really want to disassemble the entire two sides and everything else, but with one of the center rails missing, the other one not that good, the end rail not being fixed on it in the front, this rear rail having a crack in it, obviously got hit at some point and had been repaired, just makes sense to take it apart and do it right. And once I have the two sides separated, then I'll remove these aluminum panels, which will be stripped and then epoxy primered and then painted. So unexpected adventure, but one that's probably not going to be too bad. So I want to get these end brackets off here at the top. Fortunately, screws are pretty loose on them all. So of course it's a collection. We've got some Phillips headed, some normal headed, who knows, some extra holes drilled in here. But anyway, we'll get those off, and then that'll allow me to pull this rear rail out. Once the screws are out of the end brackets, the back rail just pulled away. So there it is, it's just pulled away. And the only thing that's holding the two side panels together now are these pieces of wood braces that I put on it when I first pulled it off the car. So now we take those off, and then I'll have each one of the side panels separate, and it can work on them separately. Okay, so there's the side panel is now completely free at two sides, so the back end is kind of completely taken apart. You know, there's a point you get to in a restoration when you say, what have I done? Am I ever going to get this back together again? I guess I'm getting there, because I honestly didn't anticipate going quite as far, but you might as well just do it right. So this is how we're going to do it. Now that the side panels are taken apart, you can see a few interesting things. These are the aluminum panels here. They're held in with a combination of screws and then fillets. And you can see down here, they've put a piece of metal in the fillet to hold this one against. It's the one that has the curve on it. And here's the gas filler, and you can see they've put a piece of metal in there as well. And then there are the screws. Now, of course, the screws along the inner fender, they're all out because I had to do that in order to lift this away from the car. So we're going to take those off. Now, again, I think there were two different jobs done to replace the wood on the car, one side and the other side. If we go over to the other side and take a look, we see that on this side, they basically just at an angle put some screws down there and didn't replace the fillet. Instead did it that way. And on this side here, they didn't do anything. Okay, that's completely loose. The other thing is that there should be a mastic in between the aluminum and the wood, and on this side they didn't put any in, and on the other side they did. I'm guessing this was maybe done in the States, you know, and they're not thinking so much in California about rain all the time. And the good job is that we got to this pretty quickly. The wood's pretty new, because, I mean, you know, if you leave it like that, you're just going to get water in between the aluminum and the wood, and you're going to get rot. So we're going to take these off, and then when we put them back on, we're going to do the job right. This one's a bit haggard. It's got some extra holes in it here, some holes there. I'm not quite sure why. It's a different color as well. I think we're just going to get a new panel in there and do it right. Fortunately, the screws were all very loose and easy to get out of here, and so we should be able to get this panel off no problem. The fillet just pried it up. It was held in with nails. So once all the screws are out and that little fillet in the bottom, this just pops out, no problem. And one thing you notice is that you can see the original teal blue paint here, and then they obviously painted it black without removing this. The black is a much more recent paint job here. And here's the back one. Screws out, and again, it was painted black without removing it. You can see original dark teal blue there, and hopefully that'll clean up nicely. We'll do a proper epoxy primer on it and painted body color. And now this allows me to really get after the wood here, and hopefully do a nice job on it. Now once the panels are out and you can move the frames around, a couple things that are easier to do, I guess, this way. One is to remove the rails for the top rails for the window. We removed the bottom ones to get the windows out, and these left the top ones in place, but these are easy to remove at this time. Another thing that's easy to pull off at this time is the beading, that the piping that goes around the wheel arch over the rear wings or the rear fenders, and that was stapled in. It's black. I'm going to go with a blue to match the teal blue, and so that's got to come out anyway in order to treat the wood. The piping had been put in with some pretty gnarly staples here, which of course you have to get them all out and get all the mastic off from around there.